What's up, guys? We have another game with the black pieces. We are rated 1156 against Nader Shaban 1144. He opens up 1d4. We just develop our minor piece, very flexible. He develops his knight, aiming towards the center. Standard stuff. Move 2, I'm going to go c5 and attack his center immediately. The pawn is undefended, so he does have this option of capturing it. To which I will go e6 and open up my bishop's diagonal towards the pawn so I can get my material back. He develops his queen's bishop, trying to get it active. One potential drawback is that it weakens the b2 square, so maybe one day my queen can apply pressure. So right now I think I can just take my pawn back. I don't see a problem with that. So now material's even. Maybe he's gonna try something something like this. Okay, he just develops another minor piece. Very sensible. Here you could castle. Maybe you could go d5 and put a pawn in the center. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna castle. I want to stake some claim in the center with a pawn. Okay, so white goes e3. What does this threaten? Nothing. It just develops the bishop's diagonal. There's no real drawback other than he doesn't have a pawn in the center and I do. I could castle. I could develop my knight. I'm going to just keep things simple, and I'm going to castle, and I'll develop my minor pieces next, most likely, depending on what white does. And in the future, again, later on, we might have this idea still. It all depends. It all depends on the location of this bishop. So he just develops his last minor piece. Very passive. He prepares castling. We're just going to develop a knight towards the center. Very sensible. He castles. So now all we have left is our light square bishop to develop. So you could try to go this way, or you could try to go this way. I'm gonna put my rook here on e8, which prepares this, which opens my bishop's diagonal. So he moves his knight here to coordinate with his dark square bishop. So he's trying to get aggressive. The drawback of this move, it releases some pressure from the center. And my move that I was preparing was this, which would cut off the coordination. If he takes, I can take. I don't see a drawback to that. So I'm going to go e5, opening up the diagonal for my light square bishop, as well as hitting this with tempo. This pawn is sufficiently defended. Even if his knight was back here, it was sufficiently defended. That's why I went rook e8 to prepare this. If this pawn wasn't sufficiently defended, then I wouldn't have been able to push my e-pawn, which means I would have had to try to develop my light square bishop in a different way. But if I could, I'd rather go this way. So he moves his bishop out of the way. What does this threaten? Well, it just pins the knight, which is defending the pawn. Drawback, no real drawback, I guess. So let's see, we don't want to fall for anything. If he takes this, we do want to be able to take with the queen, which means this pawn would be undefended. Okay, and he would be able to jump his knight in here with a fork. So maybe we can't take with the queen. Maybe instead we just prepare the bishop, because we don't want any of those things to happen. It's possible. What if we push, kick the knight? Again, if he takes a piece, we take a piece. I guess if he jumped his knight in there, I could take a piece. He takes a rook. I take a piece. So it's 2 pieces for a rook. He gets a queen, I get a queen. He gets a pawn, I get a piece, and I'd be up a piece. Otherwise, if I go here and he moves his knight, I don't know. This guy's kind of misplaced. I only moved him here to take the pawn. It will temporarily block my rook, but it also solves any pressure that these pieces are putting on my position. And now I can kick his minor pieces next. So for a very temporary bishop e7, it's gonna maintain my nice center, which is my advantage here. Black is better, assuming I can not lose one of these pawns. And so this looks a little funky, but like again, it's temporary. I'm gonna kick his stuff, and then I could do whatever I want with his bishop. So he takes, voluntarily giving up the bishop. Doesn't threaten anything. The drawback is it's just trading a bishop for a knight, and the position can potentially be opened. And so I think the dark square bishop, or the bishop pair in general that I have, is going to be useful. And so I have the bishop pair, that's one advantage, and then I have a nicer center, 2 pawns, that's another advantage. Let's see. After I kick his knight, I guess. Okay, so he goes a4. This threatens nothing. The drawback is it's a huge waste of time. He's protecting the knight with a pawn, but it makes no sense because I just kick it. And now he has to move it, and well, a4 is out of place. Doesn't serve any purpose. It just weakens the b4 square. He has to move his knight. Again, I like this structure. They control a lot of the central squares. If you push, then you kind of give him a square. If you push this one, and he takes, and you take, he can't go here, he can't go here, so here. Well, he doesn't have to take. He could jump here immediately on the first turn. And then what did you really... Well, you could take this. Maybe that works. Maybe this does work. I could develop my bishop. But if I push this, and he jumps in, I get a pawn, he gets a queen, I get a pawn, he gets a pawn. I get a queen, he gets a bishop, I get a knight, I'm up a pawn. Otherwise, I could go here or here. Nah, I'm gonna go for it. Oh my god. Okay, so he takes. I could just take. That looks strong. If I push, he can't go here or here or here. So let's say he goes back. Yeah. Then I could take this pawn a different way. Or I could just take it here now. He has to move the knight somewhere, but where? He has to go back like here. Let's just open up the rook. I'm sure the pushing was fine too. But because I only have 3 minutes, it's not a classical game. Like whatever. So now I want to develop. Let's just put some pressure on his position. Nice knight, Nader Shaban. I need more time though. Okay, so he goes to try to break down my center. Drawback is it's a little slow. If I take, he could bring his knight back in. I don't want that. I don't care about this pawn. I'm just going to sack it. I want to get my pieces more active. How can I do that? Maybe I could sack my rook. That would be kind of cool though. I push, he moves his queen somewhere. Yeah, that looks really interesting. I'm going to go for that. It's probably objectively bad, but that looks kind of interesting. And now I'm going to push and leave his pawns like this. Leave his knight here. He's going to move his queen somewhere. Maybe I can bring my queen in the center, apply more pressure. It depends where he moves his queen. Maybe he goes here though. And then what? Take a knight in? Not sure that was worth the exchange, buddy. I thought I would have something cool here, but maybe queen e4 is just a buzzkill. Okay, so he retreats, but that keeps the pin. I was kind of hoping for this, because I can apply more pressure to the knight in two different ways. Let's bring the knight in. Let's bring the slower, clunkier piece that's going to take more time. Let's bring it in with a kind of a tempo, because we can always bring the queen in fast. So I was worried more about queen e4, but I wasn't worried about this. Now I could take and double his pawns. So I'm going to probably just do that. Take, rook over. Bishop here, setting up some type of checkmate. I probably have other stuff, but I'm going to run out of time and blunder everything. So I'm just going to do this and hope it works. There's probably a more accurate way to attack by keeping the pieces, but this, I'm going to try this. So now I'm only down one pawn. I have a minor piece and a pawn for the rook, but I have the bishop pair, and he has a weak king. So I would say I'm more than enough compensated. And he might just be losing, like completely losing, depending on the logistics of this position. So if I go here, he has to somehow cover the dark squares. Is it better to do that or to move your bishop out of the way? Like here. Again, if he goes to the dark squares, I have to shift my queen over. I think this is probably just better. And then if he goes dark squares, I can go here. Oh no, I could just take the pawn. And importantly, my back row is covered, and his king can't escape. And this knight, I'm basically up a knight. And in the attack specifically, I'm up even a queen, because he can't bring his queen over. If he pushes to include it, he gets checkmated. He's about to be mated in two. So I only have a minute and 11 seconds left, but that will be enough in this position. Okay, he moves his knight. That's not going to cut it. But he had no defense. And so my rook exchange, this is rook sack. Maybe it wasn't objectively good, but it's easy to go wrong, as you can see. Okay, one game down. We're going to go for one more game. An e4 game this time with the white pieces against EM Gree 1152. He goes e6, preparing for the French. So we're just going to put two pawns in the center, no more than that. Take control of the central squares. And now he's playing a French, and we're going to push and play like an advanced French. He's going to attack our center. This is all standard stuff for any French player. These are their most common moves. And then we play c3, just defending our pawn chain. He immediately attacks with f6. Now this isn't the most common move in this position. He's attacking from the tail, from the base, whichever one's which, and he's really trying to break this down. It's very early to be going f6, so it's quite interesting. The drawback is it weakens this diagonal, but you can't use it immediately. I'm just going to develop a minor piece and support the center. I'm not sure what he's trying to do with f6, especially if I don't take. It's a very unorthodox approach to go f6 on move 4 and then f5, wasting a tempo. But I guess he's trying to say, well, you missed your chance to take, so now I'm locking down the position. Okay, but you did waste time, so now I can consider my options. Let's see. I'm gonna take this pawn. Yes, it develops his piece, but I don't want him to close it down, and I don't want to have to play this whole game where the whole pawn chain is locked in that structure. It's very annoying and boring. So I'd rather just play something that allows the pieces to move more freely. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to throw my knight in here. Open up this diagonal for my queen. Place a nice piece on the square I just opened up. That's why I took. So now I have a place for my pieces to, you know, play around in the center. And he can't kick it with c5 because he has no c-pawn. So that's my plan. You don't have to do this. This is just like my preference in this position, my style. You could leave a nice pawn chain there, perfectly fine. But at the same time, what's his bishop doing, right? So it looks like he's thinking now. He's not sure what to do. My knight's in a good position, applies pressure. A natural move would be to develop. I'm not sure what he's thinking about, but one of his knights perhaps makes sense. And ideas for me, this never really works. So okay, so he develops a knight, puts more pressure on my knight. Makes perfect sense. So what can we do? We could just develop our pieces, and just like which one, that's the thing. Doesn't really matter, right? We could try to prepare castling by moving our light square bishop. Maybe we can move it to e2. It has some squares there. Maybe we could just pin the knight. Okay, let's pin the knight. And because he has some, you know, nice control of the light squares with pawns. And his knight is one of the pieces that attacks the d4 square, which is kind of his thing in the French. So if I take away this piece, I mean, I don't need to. It's just a nice developing move that pressures the knight. I don't need to take it unnecessarily, though. I'm just going to castle. And now my king is safe. And I can start developing my queenside pieces. He develops his knight. This doesn't threaten anything. It just prepares possible castling. Drawback, well, because I have this pawn on e5, which actually was just hanging. Here, a castle, it's hanging. Whoops. Okay, so let's not lose that pawn. I guess we could play the space game and go f4. And so this isn't really a checkmate on his king. Drawback is it's now going to be like a slow boa constrictor style where I push and squeeze him. It does weaken the dark diagonal a little, but I don't think he can take advantage of it right just yet. I think I should just continue developing. Maybe I can also consider moving my king off of this diagonal and see what he does. That's fair. Also maybe something like queen here, but maybe that's a little early to be moving our queen. Does anything like this make sense? Probably not. That's a little much. I would like to go here, but then we have stuff hanging. His bishop is kind of in an awkward spot, a little bit of the problem. I think I'm gonna have to move it again. I'm gonna move it back because it's always x-rayed in all the lines that I'm calculating. And okay, so he takes, we take, and it comes with tempo. It also gives this knight a really good square, which is awesome. So I'm just gonna put it there. That's where it belongs. And now we have space advantage in the center because of the e5 pawn, which is in his territory. He develops his bishop, but this doesn't threaten anything. It's just, the drawback is it takes away the square from his knight, his rook, and his bishop. What's it doing? It's kind of a terrible move in a way. I'm wondering if I can organize an attack on the king side, or if that's completely unfounded. It's just something I would feel like doing. So for the time being, I'm just gonna bring the bishop out, just because I want to run down the clock while I think a little bit. I get a piece out, protects the center, opens a square for the rook, while I decide if I want to do something over here. Yeah, I don't think it's warranted by the pawn structure, but we'll see what I decide to do. And I think white's better here. I think both of black's bishops are misplaced, as well as the knight. I think I have a decent knight, a decent light square bishop, and even though this looks weird, it does protect the two pawns that are protecting the most important pawn. So this construction is actually, giving me my advantage in the position. So he moves a pawn. This doesn't threaten anything. It takes away his square, gives him a little leeway. Whatever. I really want to go g4, but after he takes, I don't want to give his knight a good square. So I could go h3 g4. Is that an idea? That way if he takes, I could take with the pawn. He has a lot of really ridiculous pieces over here. So that's 6 points of material that maybe I can use against him on this side. Okay, so maybe now he's trying to trade some pieces or something like that. I could move my knight just to troll him, but I'm not going to do that. I'll let him take. The thing is, the c3 pawn will be a weakness. That's his whole point. He's trying to do this. Then I'll just move my bishop back, and instead of solidifying this, I'll have a new base. So I don't see that as a problem. I think now I'm going to go with my plan. It's a little loose, but he has to move his knight to get his queen in. So I'll have time to move my rook up or something. I don't think it should be a problem. His bishops are off sides. If his queen doesn't help his king might just fall. And I like white's position here. So he does take, and we take. That's fine. Now he's just trying to trade stuff. He's afraid. That's funny. I can't really stop him because I don't want to lose the rook behind it. So I have to allow this. I don't want to take because that gives him a good square. I could just gain more space with G5, but I think I might, I don't see this going anywhere. I think it's good that I gain space. I think it'll give me an advantage in the end game, but I don't think the attack's gonna work, and because I'm never gonna take. So now I need to consider the queen side. Moves like this, moves like this, moves like this, moves like take, then queen here, then he defends, and then I double this way, and he takes and I take, but it's fine. It does open up his rook. That's the one thing I don't like. So we could do something else. If we just develop this rook here, then that can kind of maintain our advantage without going down any. I'm sure the other line is still good for us. But let's just try to maintain more control and not make any of his pieces active. We don't want to take here and take here. We don't want to activate the rook or the knight. We'll just play in this fashion. We'll keep restricting him. Try to limit his counterplay. And now he does take here. Unexpected. I'm going to take back with the pawn. Okay, I thought he wasn't going to take, but now if he's taking here, maybe we do have a kingside attack. I wasn't expecting him to take. Can we ever push? If he takes and we take, and he takes, we need another attacker there. We do need another attacker. How can I organize this? I'm trying to get my queen in somehow with tempo. Every time you take this, maybe if he moves the rook or something, we can take this. Okay, so he takes our bishop. This develops our queen, connects our rooks. He moves his knight. What does this threaten? Nothing. Well, maybe infiltration on the dark square. Drawback is, well, it's just my turn. This pawn hangs, but queen here, queen here. I'm gonna go here, just eyeing this square. I can move my king and put a rook here. It's interesting. I'm not sure how he defends. I mean, I also want to play f5. f5 takes. Now that he moved his knight's not supporting this. He protected his pawn, but doesn't threaten anything. The drawback is it's slow, and he's about to get mated. But I think f5 takes might be the way out. This looks kind of strong. If he takes, I get a passer on the e-file, which will win. So he goes here. No, you can't do that. Takes. Now he's threatening to take again. We could take, though. That's a pawn. And if he takes our rook, we could recapture. And I'm running out of time again. And now his knight's off sides. But nothing's happening on the queen side, which is where black's supposed to get their counterplay in the French. Totally blundered this fork. So let's act like it was part of the plan. Now, what's the best way to do this? Oh no, I'm running out of time. Let's just drop it back, and I want to put a rook over, but if he doubles, I can't. Maybe I'll just sack a pawn. Maybe I'll sack a pawn just to double. Or maybe I could sack a pawn to go king g2. Right, so here takes, king g2. Oh. Okay, he wants to double the rooks. I don't have time to do this and put the rook behind the queen. So let me put the rook here first. That's the only way to do this. I wanted to go here, but it's too slow. I'm gonna run out of time, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna try to move really fast. So expect lots of blunders coming, hanging queens and stuff like that. This isn't good. This is not ideal. What am I even doing in this position? I need to trick him. Please fall for this. Please fall for this. Please fall for this. You do not see checkmate. You do not see the checkmate. You do not see the checkmate. There's no way. There's no way that I'm in a losing position against a guy who plays G6. There's no way. But whatever. We'll take his rating. We need more time, but because they still keep giving us the game, I'm not going to do more than 10 minutes right now until they just start defeating me and stop blundering like this. So, we keep climbing another funny game. Because Rapid Games will catch you on the next one.